I didn't need a mic, I'm loud. So Ford is Forever meant everything to him, even to the very end, to the last. It was always about purple and white. So he didn't have a religion that he practiced, but we wanted to honor him in the way that we know that it's like that he would appreciate. So my brother and my sister-in-law and myself are doing this in honor of his wife, Livia Richards, whom I think some of you know, but she's unable to attend. So we are here in her honor and honoring her husband, whom for 50 years, they loved each other more than life itself. And so we have a few of you who are, so this whole process is for us to share memories of James Norton Richards, what he meant to us and what he meant to, everyone in this room, and even more. So his name is Norton. An odd name, but that was his name. He was named after his grandfather, whom he held in the highest esteem. So if you look in, we have here, who was James Norton Richards? And it tells you he was a good husband. He adored his wife, Livia Richards, and they were together for more than 50 years. I'm not going to read everything because you can all read on your own, but the ones that he loved, cricket. He loved the fact that he had this group of men that he held to his heart. Casey meant everything to him. And if you know Jimmy, you know the contributions that he made to the school. And obviously, the two people that reached out to me was Ronnie, who I met because Jimmy was ill, and Cedric, who reached out to my brother. And they helped to bring this whole thing together. But I couldn't do it without my sister-in-law and my brother. And, my brother is busy trying to get a sign-up book. So I had to start so that we could get the process through and start eating and partying as Jimmy would want us to. So the first person who I'm going to introduce to you is Carol, our next-door neighbor, who we could not do without. Her and her husband, John, who are right over there. Every Sunday, that woman would go and sit with Jimmy and pray. She never missed a day, never missed a Sunday. And John would also go and visit to make sure he was eating. And when we were in New York, when I lived in New York, because I moved here when they got sick, when we lived in New York, John and Carol, John would try and get Jimmy to eat meat, which was a battle because he never did. He hadn't, he was a vegetarian. But John looked out for him, and it's like family to Jimmy. Every week for 2 years, they visited him. So I'm asking Carol, who prayed with Jimmy every Sunday, to come now and say the prayer. And from there, we will have our speakers, each person. Sasha is Jimmy's niece, and she will start off the tone of the evening. And then each person, Audley, I think Audley is first, and then from there we will continue with the speakers. Whoever is not here, as they come in, we'll just bump them up. Okay? Anyone? Carol? The mic is all yours. Yes, Carol. She's a little person. So.
And I'm not a public speaker. We're kind of starting backwards, I think, tonight, because I knew Jimmy less than all of you did. But I got to know Jimmy in his finest years. Like all of us who are older, we should be refining ourselves. And the best of us should be in those last years. It should be revealed from the lessons and the wisdom that we gained. And that was obvious from what I knew of Jimmy. He was just so refined. He was so kind, and he was so loving to everyone. He didn't see color. He didn't see circumstances. He just saw people for what they were. And he loved everybody. There were owners of liquor stores who would bring him home. Jimmy loved people. He would go, he knew where to get them. He would walk up to Publix And then he and Livia would sit there and they would talk to everyone who came by. And they would get rides home from the manager of Publix, from the owner of the liquor store, from the people at IHOP, anybody, and everybody would bring Jimmy and Livia home or help them on their way. He just loved people, and people loved Jimmy. So I look forward to hearing you all fill in the gaps of the Jimmy that I didn't know, but I'm sure that that is the basis of all of it, that he is loving and kind. And so, in his honor, I hope to open this prayer, and I'll start just by giving the greeting that Paul gave in Galatians. And he said, "Grace and peace to you from God our Father and the Lord Jesus Christ, who gave himself for our sins to rescue us from the present evil age, according to the will of our God and Father, to whom be the glory forever and ever. Amen." And if you'll bow with me, I will say a prayer. Our Father in heaven, we would offer up this prayer for Jimmy, for the kindness and the compassion that he showed towards others. We would pray, Father, that that kindness and compassion would return to him through your love and through your mercy, through your forgiveness and grace. We know that you are a loving and passionate God, and we know that you know our hearts and that you know our deeds and that you long to forgive us and long to bring us home with you. I was honored to pray with Jimmy. Through each visit that I had, it was important for him to pray to the Lord his God, even though he had no religion. It was very important to him. Father, have mercy. Have mercy on each and every one of us. Help us to emulate the life that Jimmy lived before us, the kindness that he showed to everyone. We can change the world just by doing those things. Let us go forth and honor him by doing those things. In Jesus' most holy name we pray. Amen.
No, on me. That's me. That's you. It's them. It's them. It's this one. Is it up? It's up now. Check.
Thank you, Viv.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so very much for being here today. My name is Sasha Castle, and I flew in last night from Bermuda to represent his family. And I can't express enough how grateful we are to all of you for being just such good friends to him, for holding him close, for praying with him. But moreover, to you, Miss Violet, and if he were here, I would also extend to your brother, who's not here right now, but you made such sacrifices for him in ways that we did not know. And so, coming to know that, I think it's important that we acknowledge that. Thank you so very much. And to all of you for putting on this beautiful affair. Born in Harlem, New York on the 17th of January, 1938, James Norton Richards, fondly known as Jimmy, was the first child of Doris Carolyn Richards, the youngest daughter of James Dick Richards. And while my mother could not tell me anything about his father, she did say that he was an attorney, a point that I noted. I can only imagine that the conservative nature of those times would relegate those matters to mystery. However, he was so favored, and he loved so much his grandfather, And he definitely took on much of his characteristics, his charisma, and his descriptive means. To see and to hear Uncle Jimmy, I feel is a reflection of what everything I've heard about my great-grandfather. My earliest memories with Uncle Jimmy were from his several visits to Bermuda. And he came on various business and social engagements. And needless to say, his calendar was always full. My mother and my Aunt Carol would always go out and be tending to his meals. And as we know, he was a vegetarian before it was in fashion. I never did get a chance to really ask him his insight on vegetarianism today, with it being so popularized. I'm sure it's changed from when he had very simple meals, but I always admired him for his resolution in that. His visits were truly fun-filled, and Aunt Carol and Uncle Jimmy would compete in board games and Scrabble and card games, and it was a favorite, particularly when they played Scrabble. I would hear from the distance of the room, and even the whole house, his voice booming to challenge his sister because she made some foo-foo words on the Scrabble board. Out came the dictionaries, everything got thrown down. It was wonderful. And even in food, there was a competition between him and Carol in particular, and they would fondly refer to each other as Hoggy and Hoglet. He was a fit man, and we could always see him when he came to visit us in his table tennis gear, when he was relaxing at our house. That was very typical, and so definitely an image that's in my mind when I saw him. We knew him to be an avid walker across the island, and while he was adored by many, he never failed to be very declarative of his love for Aunt Olivia, a fact that inspires me greatly, and I like to think of him as a romantic, and it's been clear from everything that I've seen and heard, even in the smallest of this time, that his love was enduring. While on a trip to the UK, this is about 1987, we had the opportunity to visit with my Aunt Carol, and when we went there, I was told that we were meeting with a cousin. This cousin was named and greeted to us as Richard Reed Hinkson. My mother told us that she had complained bitterly to Uncle Jimmy because she wanted nieces and nephews. And so he told her about Andrea, who was known to be his daughter here in the United States. But then when she said, "Oh, I want a nephew," he said, "Okay, here you go." And he brought out a picture of Richard. She used that photo to locate Richard, and it was at that time, I was about 14 at that time, that we visited with him. He had similar characteristics, similar mannerisms, and we accepted him as our cousin. And even though we don't know any further details, we understand that that's one of the mysteries of Jimmy's life. Richard, our cousin, that is, he did relocate to the UAE, where he was teaching English, and he's not contactable at this time. However, the family from that end did extend their condolences to all of the friends and family over here upon hearing of Uncle Jimmy's passing. Coming up, my mother also had told us stories of when Uncle Jimmy attended school in Jamaica. I'm sure that I'll hear a lot more of those in detail over the course of today's event. But it was very clear from an interview piece in particular, which Uncle Jimmy wrote at the age of 21 for his grandfather, that he attended law school, and clearly he did. He attended the Inns of Court and studied law. And I don't know if he realized how much of a profound impact that would have on young Sasha. So he did write that piece of work. It was supposed to be in a time capsule that was to be unearthed 150 years later. But I feel very blessed to have those words right now. It's fascinating to me that my great-grandfather felt that it was a very interesting part of history that he was going to study law. And even though he did not practice law, we know that he excelled in so many other areas of note. And that is where his fame lies. So I am a bit interested as a family historian to know much. And I did have several conversations, mostly about my great-grandfather, but also it reflected very much on the value of education, that value within our family, a value that my great-grandfather, obviously put a lot of money behind in terms of sponsorships, but he loved that for his family, and he really wanted to see him succeed. And I think I understand that. So the other things that I was told about Uncle Jimmy was about his business savvy and how he had acquired properties, and he was very successful in his time in terms of investments in Jamaica over the years. But it was never more apparent of where his passion was when it came to cricket. And so we did know him to attend cricket in the local scene in Bermuda, but even more so delving into history, his love of statistics by writing the book, and also by the love of his collection, which was also of great import. He influenced many in terms of sport, which can still be seen by those beneficiaries of his advice to this day. It was difficult when we were unable to keep in contact. So when I was able to hear from him as an adult, it was cherished conversations. This was especially the case after both my mom and my aunt had passed away. In his later years, he would send birthday cards. He would call. He would call for every storm to know, are you okay? And I really appreciated those kind of conversations because it really gave a level of reassurance and comfort. And I will miss those more than ever. His passing marked an end of a generation for us. And there's never enough words when you haven't said enough words. I only think of what do I tell my daughter who never got a chance to meet him in person. But she did get the chance to speak to him over a phone, which is so just so inadequate. And from that, I learned a lesson, and I learned so many lessons from his life, but of that one, I take away most sincerely the times to recall and speak to and touch out and reach out. No matter how many times, it never seems to be enough. And this dwelled in my heart much of the past couple of weeks because for all of the information that he had and all that he shared and all that he meant, I can only cling to what's left behind, but he has left us such a great legacy. Uncle Jimmy was called home to the Lord in his 85th year. As we know, beloved husband of Olivia DaCosta, father to Andrea, and to what we know, Richard Reed. In Bermuda, we have his nieces, those remaining direct descendants, Sia Muhammad, Sasha Castle, and Rebecca Ravenel. He leaves great nieces and nephews to remember him. I know that we have cousins that likely remain in Jamaica, and if they're within the sound of my voice, I do hope that they reach out to me at some point so that we can be a closer family, albeit small. But again, I think that it's just really important that we take this time to just remember those good bits, those things that keep us close as a family. And I understand that most of you come from the KC family. I do hope that you will continue to strengthen one another, that you will continue to support one another as you have, that you will continue to guide and continue to provide guidance for the next generation. These are values that he had. They were values that he imparted. They are values that I carry with me, and they are values that I'm going to share with my children and grandchildren. Thank you, and I hope that you all enjoy today's ceremony.
So we're going to have Audley speak.
I wonder why you are smiling like that.
That's just thought I said, I hope everybody knows who you are.
I don't know. But one thing I do know is that I try to be an athlete. And I tried my best to come first today. I say I'm going to be the first on that tape today. I didn't make it. I'm getting old.
But you made it.
But I made it. No, Jimmy, a lot of people do not realize how close Jimmy and myself was. My wife loved him. Not in the way some people are thinking. But our home was his home. So we go back very far to the days of Bermuda, when he would say, come to Bermuda for the weekend. And with his other good friend, Junior Talbot, we took off and we were in Jamaica, in Bermuda. A lot of people do not realize that when you used to have what we call football boots, Jimmy's foot was so big that Jimmy had to go and get a special pair of boots made for himself. And when you think about people of all these colors of all these boots today, Jimmy was the first person to change the color of the soccer boots. Jimmy had a pair of white boots which he made for himself. So he was ahead of the Puma and the Adidas who come with all these fancy colors today. Jimmy set the pace. A lot of people laugh and talk about how much I give, how much I contribute. When I hear these people talk, I laugh. And I say, it's a pity they were not at Kingston College when Jimmy was younger. Because Jimmy gave so much help. I mean, Jimmy should go down in history as a Casey old boy who gave back so much. There are a lot of people today can say If it wasn't for Jimmy, I don't know where I would have been today. And he did it and didn't ask for no fanfare, no credit, no nothing. He did it for what I call love. And when I see today a lot of these guys that he helped, quite a few of them give back to KC. He set the standard and he gave back. So it is so nice when you hear people talk about, forgive me, but people say Oprah Winfrey. I've given so much. But I'm trying to tell you, Jimmy was given back long before Oprah Winfrey. And people don't know that. People talk about, I suppose, the world is an unusual world. The world makes stars out of people that should never have been made stars, but they like them for some reason. But the people who do well, the people that give back, not from the pocket, from the heart. Unfortunately, it rubs down into the pocket, so they take out and they give. No, a school like, say, Kingston College, if it was not for Jimmy, I am telling you, Sunlight cricket that we played, a lot of time we would not have won if it was not for Jimmy helping these guys. People talk about, again, where people say giving back. People don't realize how many lunches and boots and socks and shirt that Jimmy bought. And today, sometime a man give you a patty and would like a picture of him giving you the patty, put on the front page of the Gleaner. And sometimes him don't get it, him vex. Him say, I give a patty and I don't get a picture. So I wonder how many pictures Jimmy should have had. No, Casey, Jimmy, you talk about sports. Jimmy had the best cricket library in the world. The people who know about cricket will tell you, yes, Jimmy had a library that he did all these research and you could find all the information. Now, I live to see that in 2023, Kingston College won championship. And before they won championship, the school was looking money to put up the 100 athletes in a hotel that they would get food and they would get all the nice things, and that's all they were put up. And they go around and they ask for money and they ask people to make contribution. Some did, some did not. But the funny thing about it, Jimmy used to put up all of the track and field people on Seaview Avenue. And he didn't ask nobody to give a contribution. He did it from what I call love. You know, it is, I am the wrong person for you to give me this mic. Because when you're telling me I must talk about Jimmy, and when I spoke to a certain gentleman, he said to me, I have 5 minutes. I said, not 6? He said, no, 5. And I turned this and I said to him, so all you are trying to tell me is Jimmy is only worth 5 minutes? I said, you got to be sick. Oh, many times in the world, a Jimmy passed through. You don't find them. You don't see them. Because what they do is for love. There's one thing that I have to share with you. Jimmy thought, forget the damn mic. Shirley, I know I mustn't say those words. I withdraw it. I say, I don't have the protocol that a lot of my friends have about good morning, sir, good afternoon, sir, how are you doing? Thanks for your contribution. I just said, boy, give me some more money. But back to seriousness, though. Is Jimmy only worth 5 minutes? I saw a gentleman in the front here shaking his head. I opened put him head like this. Jimmy, well, I'm old now, so I was about to say, as long as I live, I won't see another one. But I'll be a joker, because at my age right now, I soon pass the finish tape. But I was fortunate to have met Jimmy. I was fortunate to play lawn tennis, as we call it. Nowadays, I'm doing call about lawn tennis. Because ain't no lawn again, no case you don't have dirt. But he played football, he played cricket, he played table tennis, he played lawn tennis, and he played a lot of other things which I will not say today. I don't understand. Why you laughing, sir? Why you laughing? I telling a lie? Any case, it's true. I think I've said it all. Jimmy, walk very good. I love you.
So good evening. And Mr. Hewitt, let me first be the one to put up the hand. You kind of just describe everything that Jimmy did for me, my family, and a lot more guys in the audience and ladies. So, like I said, good evening. Mr. Richards first came through my door when I was about 11 years old and said to my mother that we have to have this kid at Kingston College. I was like, Kingston College? It never resonate or ring a bell. So you had another fellow by the name of Randy Olson, who was still living next door to me. He had gone to Kingston College the year before. So he came over. So both Mr. Richards, Randy, my mother and myself, we were there. And she said, he said to her, don't worry, coming to Kingston College. And I think that was the best advice or the best suggestion or anything that was good that came to my family at that time. And with what Audley had said just now, the result of us growing, becoming men, it epitomizes what that man had done for me. He's one of the reasons why I'm standing here with a whole lot of accolades at Kingston College. That he did. That he had too. So he did a lot for me. He did a lot for me. Did a lot for my family in terms of getting me into Kingston College, throughout Kingston College. And at a point that my mom migrated, but before she did, he looked at her and said, "Don't worry, he's still here. Don't worry, it doesn't need to go to the state at this time. Let him stay here." And like I said, I couldn't repay that man for what he has done for me. So when when Ronnie reached out to me and said, "Can you say a few words?" Me, like Mr. Hewitt said, 5 minutes, not enough, not enough. But, you know, what can I, he's just somebody that I looked up to, I cherish. He has molded me into the person I am today. And I'm thankful for that. And I know my former skipper, Marlon Tucker, sitting there, can attest to that, Victor. And Teddy used to say to me one thing. It doesn't matter the era that you went to Kingston College. You know, when you get together, it seemed like we all went to school at the same time. And if you look around here, he's one of the reasons why most of us are here today. So rest in peace, walk good. Thank you.
All right, yeah, I got 2 minutes too, but I might have. No, oh, I got 5? Oh, cool. Good evening, one and all. So, my journey started with this man. My name is Victor Alden, class of 81. My journey started with this man, Audley Patterson. I was a big brother. He's a big brother of mine. He and my big brother were like this growing up. He's a serious taskmaster. I would come to the house with a ball and a bat and throw the ball to me, and I'm bowling to him for hours. I say, "Friend, beg your bat now." He said, "Did you bowl me?" I said, "No." Then keep bowling. So that went on for a few years. So the year was 1975. I was in grade 4. And he said to me, "There's somebody coming to your school tomorrow. Drive a big Buick Skylark, light blue. Look out for him." So, okay. So sure enough, close to lunchtime, I see the car coming down and the kids running behind it. And I'm like, yeah, that's for me. You know, that's for me. So he came to the principal office and I introduced myself and he gave me this form to fill out. So I said, "What is this form for?" He says, "Oh, you're going to KC next year." I'm like, yes. So when that told my grade 4 teacher, she's like, "You're not going anywhere until you pass the common entrance." I'm like, oh, man. Anyway, so 75, went on, then 76, passed the common entrance, went to KC. So the January of 77, when I was in first form, the cricket team started training for Sunlight. And I was watching them. And the ball came where I was, threw it back in. And him and Nigel Pagan was the captain at the time. And both of them were talking. So they beckoned to me and called me. And I went over and he said, "Are you the little boy who Fern told me about?" I said, "Yes." So he's like, "Come to training tomorrow." And that was the beginning of it. That year, I did pretty well in Colts cricket. I played Colt cricket that year. And one evening I was at home. I was at the school just sitting down, and he was driving out after a game, and he's like, "You're not going home?" I said, "Coach, I can't go home." He's like, "Why?" I said, "My mother then going to kill me." I'm like, "What do you mean?" I said, "They don't believe I'm playing cricket for KC. And they say I'm just out and walking on the street all evening, not coming home." So I said, "Get in the car." So took me home. So I walk around the yard, and then and both of them have 2 whisks in their hand. because I'm a mother and my adopted mother. They were best friends from kids growing up. So he bend the corner now, and they're like, you know. So I introduced them to coach, and coach said, no, Victor is actually playing for KC. He's a very integral part of the team. And they're like, we believe him. I'm like, you people, you know. And from there, it was like he gave me a card to just do whatever I wanted. But yeah, I really started to walk street then. But from there, you know, as Mark Johnson said, it was me, Mark Johnson, Robert Tiens. I mean, Mr. Richard had an eye for talent. You didn't have to reach to the pinnacle of your career. He could just see you and, like a mine, just mold it, polish it, and bring you to where you need to be. In fifth form, we won Sunlight against like one of the most formidable teams we've ever faced. Two future West Indies pace bowler, Courtney Walsh and Patrick Patterson. And me and him had a conversation end of last year when he said, Victor, I want to tell you something. I said, what? He said, you remember that innings you played in the 81 team when they made 56? I said, yes. He said, and we were 17-4? I said, yes. He's like, that's the second best innings I've seen a KC boy play. Wow. I'm like, what? He's like, understand what I'm saying. Who you faced that day, you literally cut down Goliath. And I said, second best. I said, where did I get the second thing? And my mind went to Teddy Man. Because Teddy always tells me, say, it doesn't matter if Michael Lolding is playing with Shell Shield, he was still the vice captain. So he's still the second best, you know. but Coach and I had a very, very good relationship. When I left KC, he came to my house one day and said, meet me at telephone company tomorrow. I went there, and I saw this guy, and he's like, I said, this man, I should say, I said, he looks like Wally Johnson. I said, that's Wally Johnson's twin brother. And he said, hey, Neville, take care of him for me. And that's how I started working at a telephone company. After that, about a couple of years later, I moved to a different section of the telephone company to this man named Owen Evans, who passed a few months ago. And, you know, so Coach was always making sure that we were okay, as Sue said. I mean, sometimes you'll bring a box of Bambi and mango, just put at my house and say, bye.
Taking my mango?
Yes, yes, I was the one who was getting them. So, moving forward, on May the 5th, I was in Jamaica. And I went down to my old primary school, the first time since I left. And on my way out, I just started smiling because I saw the Buick coming in. I just saw the Buick coming in. And then the Saturday, we got the news that he was in hospice. And then the Sunday, he passed. And I'm like, that was a fitting visit to the primary school. You know, just to close everything, you know what I mean? But Coach, thank you.
Afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Kingston College Old Boys are not really particular. We're very religious, as we've heard and most of us know, but we're not really particular about the color of our Bibles. But somehow I just happen to have, I don't know why, but I always say the color of our Bibles are no more significant than the color of our eyes. So we could take that from there. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to have the reading of the scripture in honor of Coach Mr. Jimmy Richards. The reading is taken from 2 Timothy 4, verses 5 through 8. And this is again, bear in mind, please note, in honor of our beloved Mr. Richards. But you be watchful in all things, endure afflictions, do the work of an evangelist, fulfill your ministry. For I am already being poured out as a drink offering, and the time of my departure is at hand. I have fought the good fight. I have finished the race. I have kept the faith. Finally, there is a place laid up for me, the crown of righteousness, which the Lord, the righteous judge, will give me on that day, and not just me, but you also will have love in his honor. Ladies and gentlemen, the word of the Lord. Mr. Rich became a very, I didn't play cricket, but yeah, no. Didn't didn't play cricket, but somehow Mr. Richards, as for all of us, was a dear mentor, teacher, not just a coach, but a leader of men, right? A model citizen. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Rich, when he moved up here and he found out that I was in close proximity, he would, the phone calls, the literature, things he would write and send, the letters. I have some letters. I started to bring some letters, and I was like, nah, because it's going to. And he would ask me to collect stuff also for him, like when we have the Old Boys Association, the dinner dances, and I would, bring the magazines for him. And he was so appreciative of seeing those, and he would take excerpts from that and start writing more stuff. And, I can, like Jimmy and Foggy Barrows and our dear professor, I call him Professor Audley Hewitt, these gentlemen, and let's go for some ladies too, Muriel Riley, Joyce Baxter, Mrs. Sarant. These people are unreplaceable. You just can't replace these people. And so we keep them dear in our hearts, and we ask that we will always, always remember them. And I think these guys are getting ready to put up a scholarship in honor of Mr. Rich. And so we'll all be partakers of that. And may God bless you all. Thanks.
Good afternoon, first of all. So, Jimmy, as you have heard, has been special to all of us. So for me, I refer to Jimmy as King James, Sir Jimmy, Jimmy the Great, simply because he was kind, he was generous. And what I could never understand, whenever I spoke to Jimmy, I felt I was the best cricketer he ever had. No, all my friends are laughing because I found out real fast that all of us felt we were the best cricketers he good. Huh? So Jimmy had the knack of making you feel special. And as time went by, what I cherished the most was if Jimmy never heard from you, he got in touch with you. And I remember there were many times this conversation used to be, where is this person? Do you have a number for this person? How can I find this person? So Jimmy was good at keeping us all together. As a young man, I remember Jimmy knew I loved curry goat. And somehow he would always say, "Come on over, because I have some curry goat waiting for you." I know he didn't cook it, and I am not sure how he got it, but it was there. So Jimmy always made you feel special. But you know what? He made all of us feel special. So as time went by, when I migrated and, I had twin boys. When we went to Jamaica, the first thing Jimmy said was, "I need to meet your sons." And I would send them home every summer. Jimmy would come by every 2 weeks. He would pick them up, take them to the hotel, and have them spend the day at the pool. How do you put a price on that type of generosity? And that was Jimmy. So when Jimmy reached out and says, is there, I'm in a nursing home. Thanks to one of my friends here, sometimes you say you're going to visit somebody, but you procrastinate. So I got a phone call from Cedric, and I think it's the first time I'm actually saying this, where Cedric says, "You have to come to Florida to go see Jimmy." It's the best, and I'm so happy I did it, because when I visited, I had no clue that Jimmy would have left us so quickly. So that's a moment I'll never forget. And in concluding, I'd just like to say, fortis, cadere, cedere, non protest. Jimmy is a brave man. Thank you.
Hey, tell you, behave yourself. I can still give the 10 chance. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. My name is Winston Stewart, not with the D, but with a T. And I'll begin by saying, warmest greetings to you all, in the name of God and all the ancestors of Kingston College, in whose footsteps we walk and upon whose ideas we fly. Our brother, mentor, coach, and friend has now joined the ranks of our ancestors. And he is reunited with his mentor, Bishop Percival William Gibson, the founder of Kingston College and the first headmaster of the school. Now, why am I saying all of this? Because we have heard from the previous presenters from a certain perspective. I was privileged to have come in contact with Jimmy in my final year at Kingston College. And at that point, he was beginning to put together a database of every Kingston College old boy worldwide. That was Jimmy Richards that I remember. And I asked him, why was he doing this? And he said, long after we are gone, this list has to continue to live. Now, unfortunately, I don't know where this database is currently. But one of the things I'm going to promise all of us here today is that I'm going to take it upon myself to locate that database and continue that task that Jimmy started. James Jimmy Richards was a gracious and grateful gentleman who lived up to the precepts of Kingston College. He came from Bermuda, boarded with the Taylor family, and seems to have fallen in love with Jamaica from the get-go. The Taylors were a Jamaican sporting family, and Keith was also the chemistry master at KC. To understand who Jimmy was, it is instructive to take a brief reflection on the underpinnings of Kingston College. As stated at the founding in 1925, a Kingston College education was to be based on the principles which make for the development of character no less than that of intellect. I'm going to repeat that. As stated at the founding in 1925, a Kingston College education was to be based on the principles which make for the development of character no less than that of intellect. As such, and remember this study, attending chapel service is compulsory at KC and a prerequisite to leading the Christian life. The formation of character through Christian practice means internalizing the classic Christian virtues of prudence, temperance, fortitude, faith, hope, and love. In other words, character and virtue go together. This is what our late founder and first headmaster, Bishop Gibson, who was a theologian, sought to achieve. No one can deny the impeccable character and intellect that Jimmy embodied throughout his formative years at KC and subsequently. Bishop Gibson often impressed upon the student body that there was a simplicity for living the Christian life. First was a belief in Christ, and second, heed the prophet Micah, and that is, do justice, love mercy, and walk humbly. It was a bishop's principal maxim, and he felt that if one were ever in doubt about a course of action, he should ask himself if he would be doing justice, showing mercy, or walking humbly. Jimmy may not have been a consistent congregant, but his actions and behavior towards his fellow man and woman exemplified the words of Micah, the prophet. This in and of itself is the epitome of Christianity. I did not know about Jimmy's expressed faith, as we never had that conversation. But I'm certain that he took with him throughout his life the rules of moral conduct that was taught at Kingston College. He was also true to the symbolisms and motto emblazoned on the Kingston College crest. The true meaning of these symbols and motto may only be determined by the extent to which we, as members of the Kingston College family, which have chosen them, abide by our own standards. Jimmy has left us a very high bar for us to emulate. He was a gentleman, first and foremost, and a good person, known for his politeness, proper dress, and grooming, even when arriving on the North Street campus with his cricket bat in hand. Above all, he was a kind person who was intimately involved with the school's sports program. May his soul continue to occupy the good Lord's garden of eternal rest. Fortis cadere non potest. Fortis cadere non potest. The brave may fall, but never yield. We know and understand the challenges that Jimmy experienced, especially in his latter days. And we're certain that at no time did he yield to any pity or stuff of that nature. Thank you very much for your time and attention, and may God bless you all.
Gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, Dimples, Tony, just to make this announcement, Jeff did say something about a James Richards Scholarship. So we will be having the annual James Richards Scholarship program designed to recognize the outstanding legacy of Coach Richards and his impactful contribution to cricket program at Kingston College. The scholarship would not only serve as a tribute to Coach Richards' life, but also inspire and motivate future generation of cricketers at Kingston College to strive for excellence both on and off the pitch. It will be each year, and the recipient will have a total amount of $1,000 towards tuition, books, lunch, transportation, school supplies, and uniform. So that's pretty much an overview of the James Richards Scholarship, which will start September this coming school year. Thank you.
Ladies, gentlemen, I am sure that all of us here this evening, and maybe 90% of the people who had a conversation with Jimmy Richards, would find that he was a man with tremendous wisdom. The wisdom that he had and that I collected from him, I am sure was because of the nature of the school. It was an Anglican school. It was a Christian school. So as Teddy said, he had to, like all of us, be at theology, which was the first class of the morning. I first met that gentleman in my early childhood, about 1966, 67, and I born 1960 at Senior Cup cricket, Test match cricket, and Sunlight Cup cricket. And as a youngster, one of the greatest cricketers of all times, for me the greatest, and I'm sure a lot in this gathering today would agree, Sir Garfield Sobers came to Boys Town, where Boys Town is like my first home and second home. And Sir Gary said that I would play Test cricket somewhere about 19. So when I went to Kingston College, my first year at Sunlight Cup, James Richards was responsible for teaching cricket, and that he did. A master mind of the game. A young Clifford Bell who went on to work with the Bank of Jamaica just after that here when he was captain, a very gifted player. James taught me to be patient because there was times when I disagreed with the captain. He taught me to wait my turn, and I had to wait 3 years before I became captain. There was Mark Neat ahead of me and Nigel Pagan, two other very gifted cricketers, young cricketers at that time. During my time at Kingston College, I won 5 cups for Kingston College. and then recommended Mark Johnson to be captain, and he won 2. So there was tremendous success from Jimmy Richards. But he was not only my coach, who coached a no-nonsense coach. He made the ball with tremendous power and had a brain that would cut through yours like a surgeon. And that he taught me to don't waste time in the game, because you don't have much time in schoolboy cricket. You only have one day to get a result. At test match level, he still tell you not to waste time. You must apply the pressure, like the laws of gravity. He was much more than a coach to me. I was invited to his house first time as a kid, just before I went to England representing the West Indies youths. And he sat me in his library, put a book called C.L. James, Beyond the Boundary. And he said that he was going to make dinner for me and him and Livia. And I'm like, you going to cook? There was a beautiful photograph of his wife, Livia, right there. And I sat there. And after we had dinner, I said to him, why Beyond the Boundary? Because you got about 400 books. And you're ranked about 5 in the world in a library of cricket. He says he's a member of the Old Boys Association. And at that time at Kingston College, we had priests. But usually you don't have priests as principals. We had Reverend Ramsey and Reverend McNabb, a very shrewd teacher of the scriptures. And he said that he knew of some of my works that I was doing before I got to Kingston College. And this is why he gave me Beyond the Boundary. But some of my works that I did at that time, I think James had to have something to do with it. Because as a kid, it's very frightening when somebody hit the ball to you close up at lightning speed and then send it to the sky where it disappeared almost like a plane, out of sight. I once got 1,000 lines from the coach, James Richards, for playing across the line of a cricket ball. And I said to him, but coach, you forgot to give me the funds to get the paper and the pen. And he said, that is my problem. The next day he turned up at school with a briefcase full of money. And Livia's car, his wife, gave me the keys and the money. I gave Randy Wilson the money and kept the car. Later on, after I won the Red Stripe Cup, I was given the car without any cost. Now, how do you repay somebody like that, If youngsters at school, like myself, who likes to gamble, lose your money and you turn up at school and you can't buy lunch, you could go to the principal's office and pick up a ticket to get lunch, paid by James Richards and Livia Richards. The football team would practice on his lawn. The line is too long to even go into it, and most of you guys have covered that today. But a great gentleman, in my opinion, my father as well. I went to Bermuda once, and he took me to his grandfather motel. Nice, strong building downtown Bermuda, which was purchased by Bank of Nova Scotia about 10 years after I saw it. He certainly will be missed by me. I'm sure he lives in the heart and soul of all Christians and all of us who are gathered here today to celebrate his memory and life. I personally do look forward to the resurrection because that is a must. And the book of Matthew proves that the resurrection is a must after Christ died. Graves were open and saints walk about. Peter raised the dead. Christ himself came back from the dead. And if I hide one day from chapel, I was told in writing from him, don't do it again. So, to Mr. Richards, I'll see you at the resurrection. Thank you very much.
I want to thank everybody. We want to thank you again for all showing up. We have provided lunch because I know some people drove very far, so the journey started very early. So you probably haven't had time to take a bite, and I'm hoping you eat before you go back on your very long journey. My brother, myself, in honor of my sister, Lydia Riches, we thank you all for showing up. Thank you all for showing respect for Jimmy, or Mr. Ritchie, as some people used to call him, Mr. Ritchie. And so we would say that sometimes we would end up calling him Mr. Ritchie if we're not calling him Jimmy. And so, again, he will live on forever in our hearts. Like I said, gone but not forgotten. So please, just give me a minute to get the caterers to come in and talk among yourselves, and let's just have more memories of who he was and what he did.
I guess we are.
So you know, Randy James.
I'm just going to interrupt you for a moment. We have one more request. So before everyone leaves, we have a guest book. We would love to have your autographs. So after, just before you get ready to run out. Okay, thank you.
From your computer? Oh. Forgot to about this. So did broadcast it. So you're good. I might forgot to them that way. 4-hour drive, but So you go. Last time I see him was up on Alfred Street. Walk him up on Alfred Street. Yo, high jump. Yeah, that's me, sir. Yeah, man, even though when you play cricket, every day I mean, I go and mingle, you know.
Remember your face, but I can't remember your name. I know you don't look any different than when you were young. Is that when you were young? No. You know what I mean? But when he was when he was a youth. Let me say that when he was a youth. I remember you from the house. Did you ever come to the house? Right, yeah. No. But I remember your face, and I don't remember too much. No. They came to the house. They came to the house. With a lot of people.
That wasn't included.
Yeah. You went to Kizzy too? They did. I know they did. In Boston.
Oh, he is in Boston? Oh, is that right? Yeah, that's good. I don't really keep up, you know. I'll keep up with myself. So wait a minute.
There's lots of food.
Yeah. Thank you. How you doing? All
right? I don't have to worry about my sister.
Yeah.
Worse, yeah. So she's in the last stages, yeah. So, we don't know when, well, she's fine now. Not fine. No, I can't say she got yeah, I know. Yeah, it is. I can't request it. It's work. It's work. You guys will be going yeah. Oh, it's good. It's gonna come. Yeah. All right. Thank you for speaking. Very nice of you. Yeah, I'm Violet. Yes. Yeah. Or Dimples, they call me. So. Yeah. Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Fortis. I wish we had a jacket. You would put that on the thing. We didn't have a jacket or a tie. You are? Your name? Stephen. Savory? As in savoring something? Oh, thank you. Yes. Nice. Between you and Dreamy, those are names I haven't heard before. Dreamy, can I come along?
No, that makes sense. That makes sense. One
That's the cameraman. Yeah, nobody takes pictures.
How much you think you are? How much you think you are?
So I just had to take one of the cameras.
I am more up to date than the things I have. Yes, yes, yes. Yes, the brave. Oh, really? Smiling. And you were in Dean's Smiling. Okay. Turn off the video. Yeah, it's still running. Hey, I can perfectly see I was up here. No, serious. I don't know. Because listen, when you really realize that happening, when you have
Take a picture, you sign it, turn around.
13 miles, well, you can understand that.
Yeah, but we were taking pictures of everybody. And when I saw you over here, and I'd already given her the phone back, I said, let me get over here and take a picture. Because you represent a lot of families. Yeah, I got you. Yeah. I'm going to stand out there and let me take a picture of you standing yeah, whatever you stand up. That's fine. Because your family. Yeah, let's do this. Yeah. Why you being on the news? So you represent family?
Yes, it's all very much easy. Let me have your name and number so I can put you in the
Oh, my name is Bernice. And my telephone number is 689-207-7690.
Okay, are you on WhatsApp?
How?
Are you on WhatsApp?
No,
Okay,
not on
but
any app.
we'll find somebody who can send you these pictures. At least I have like more.
We got one who taking pictures of everybody saying, that's what I just got over here by yourself. I saw the sign. You take a picture.
You're having an eye for the movies.
You got it.
I could not do it. It's fine. I felt like I was going to pass out.
Very but I'm so glad I've learned this to do. I knew him from having lived walking down the street. No, but I do not know all the things that he was
Oh, yeah, what he was doing. All those things. The thing about that is that sometimes we fail to see that there are allies that are like their misunderstanding. And we don't tap into that because we want to, you can't always go to the fight yourself. And those things that they were doing. But not my own career, so I don't want to say it would have been starting, but it would have been nice to know. And of course, everything that we had because that's how I and so I was like, look, I'm just not like, and I did what anything because at the end of the day, you used to have one and he was horrible. So I felt like the day before he passed, and I'm sitting there,
so you could track.
Exactly. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, see, I look at this. The period is the day before. And if I was like literally just sitting there waiting to here's the thing, I don't think I was ready to do it because of the time it takes to travel, right? But still, it was like so strange. I just dropped everything, but I was just like, you know what? When it comes to our home,
So when are you leaving?
I'll write it down so that you have people reading. Oh, you got it. I do have his.
Because I learned a lot about ships and everybody. There's a lot of kids, and we were so that's why I grabbed and then I
If you give a little more than you take, and if you try to fix more than you break, if you're the kind who takes the time to help a stranger in the rain, there's a place for people like you. If you stand up for those down on their knees and lend a voice to those who cannot speak, if you shine a little light, give sight to the ones who've lost their way, there's a place for people like you. I've heard up there the streets are made of gold, and when you get there, there's a hand to hold. I believe when your days down here are through, there's a place up there for people like you. If you walk around with your heart on your sleeve, and if you're trying to be the change you wanna see, if you're walk around with your heart on your sleeve, and if you're trying to be the change you wanna see, if you're trying to be the change you wanna see, if you're trying to be the change you wanna see, if you're trying to be the change you wanna see, if you're trying to be the change you wanna see, if you're trying to be the change you wanna see, if you're trying to be the change you wanna see, if you're trying to be the change you wanna see, if you're trying to be the change you wanna see, if you're trying to be the change you wanna see, if you're trying to be the change you wanna see, if you're trying to be the change you wanna see, if you're trying to be the change you wanna see, if you're trying to be the change you wanna see, if you're trying to be the change you wanna see, if you're trying to be the change you wanna see, if you're trying to be the change you wanna see, if you're trying to be the change you wanna see, if you're trying to be the change you wanna see, if you're trying to be the change you wanna see, if you're trying to be the change you wanna see, if you're trying to be the change you wanna see so someone could be saved. There's a place for people like you. I heard up there the streets are made of gold, and when you get there, there's a hand to hold. I believe when your days down here are through, there's a place up there for people like you. Are made of gold, and when you get there, there's a hand to hold. I believe when your days down here are through, yeah, there's a place up there for people like you. I know you're out there, so keep doing what you do, 'cause there's a place up there for people like you.